So Morthal Executioner, I quite like him as a card. He's quite good fun. Certainly very fierce looking, isn't he? I used to like playing him in decks because it's very fun to see his power go up as you break runes, so I quite like the art on this. Yeah, actually the effect does make him stand out more. It's quite moody having that sky in the background. Yeah, I do like, well, I like both versions of the card, but that's just that little bit better, isn't it? Pack Wolf, yeah, again, I think of my friend who used to play wolf decks when I see any of the wolf cards. That's beautiful, isn't it? I think I might have crafted that as a premium for the winter Christmas, it's probably Christmas 2023 special on Schwartz's channel because we played some snow and ice themed decks. I think I crafted it for that because it's got the snow effect. Not the greatest start on this one, is it really? So it's getting a bit late, so I'm getting a bit tired. Okay. Very, very useful card. I do like the effect a lot, but the art's just not that great, is it? Pit Lion, it's great when you can get it out. In my track record, I always used to get the bloody thing and then not get enough tokens or couldn't keep enough on the board to actually get the thing out. So I'd be stuck with it bricking up in my hand, but other people have more success with it consistently. Yeah, that is slightly better. You can kind of see the atmosphere in the Colosseum behind him. I have actually seen this once on ladder. I can't remember whether it was last season or the season before, but very, very occasionally it does get played. The art's okay on it. Yeah, she just seems to stand out a bit more on the premium version. Again, she's one of those outcasts that doesn't get played a lot. I do actually prefer that version. Ah, prison ship. when I was a newbie, I used to play Redder Werewolves with prison ship and trebuchet. I had no idea, did I? By some miracle, I seemed to do quite well in the middle tier with that. Anyway, I remember I used to have prison ship out on the board. I'd be going, "Come on, prison ship!" Which, when you think about it, that's not really doesn't sound very good, does it? But I still have an affection for prison ship even now. I think I do have a prison ship Redder and Werewolves video on my channel. It's a nice effect having the wind in the sails, isn't it? However, sorry to you again. I do think that the art is more defined on the standard version. It looks a little bit faded here, so I do prefer standard version. What a fierce looking Khajiit. Very useful card. Quite a moody shot, isn't it? I actually prefer the standard art on that. Again, I think it's more defined than, I mean, it's almost like this effect detracts me from it a bit. Never really seen anyone play this outside of, has it ever been played in Versus Arena? I've never seen it be played there either, really. obviously comes up occasionally when you're playing against the AI. It's not the most exciting art in the world, is it really? I do quite like Renowned Instructor. It's great fun. People, even though she only, again, one of those cards that people tend to target, like the Khajiit, who Pilferson provides a 1/1. People tend to try and kill her pronto as well, even though it's only a 1/1 recruit she's summoning. But that's, of course, to escalate in field presence, isn't it? There's the premium. It's quite subtle actually. There's not a huge amount of difference going on there, is it? Yeah, I'm not a great fan of the art on this one. It's alright. Very, very useful effect. Again, there's not a huge amount going on there. So it looks pleasant, but it's not anything special. I actually think... Yeah, I think I prefer the standard version. This Khajiit's, he can be a bit of a pain when he keeps going backwards and forwards. Now it's okay. I mean, I do like a lot of the Khajiit cards, but I think I prefer the ones that are in green. And that's okay. It's just not that thrilling, but I do quite like the effect around the sword, so I'd say that was better than the sort of free basic one. So this gets played a lot in multi-support decks, really. The art's quite nice here. It's a bit of a dark room in the background, so it can look a little bit drab, but her outfit is quite good. This one, it's like the effect is actually making her look more washed out, so I think I prefer the standard art better. Now I have seen, I think it was Banana Schwab Friends in one of the gauntlets. It might have been the mirror gauntlet, but I remember him playing this as a weapon to stop his opponent from putting cards down, and I think he was running a Nightmare Mother deck, so and he did it very successfully as well. I think he did quite well in that event. And it was just a good way of avoiding making it more difficult for them. They then had to like kill their own creatures to put stuff out. Yeah, it's not really anything special. Is it the alts? Well, it's not really alt. The premium one. I can't really see anything different on it at all. Well, hang on, it's still glistening there, wasn't it? There's nothing too special about this card. I mean, it's a fun effect, but the art's not particularly exciting. But that's a massive improvement, isn't it? Look at that aura around him, and you've got the snow effect as well. And it suddenly comes to life. Obviously, she gets... Actually, let's go back a fraction more. That one could be a candidate for the hypnotic cards list as well. Thinking about it, you could probably stare at that for a while and end up going to sleep, couldn't you? Not that hypnosis is the same thing as sleep, but it's an altered, deeply relaxing state. Very, very popular in thief decks. While I'm not a great fan of the art, the effect when you see it go off on the ladder, it's quite funny. Yeah, I think I prefer the standard art to the premium. It just looks more defined. I'm not a great fan of this card. It's a bit of a nuisance. We've got multi-support decks out, but even that aside, the artwork's okay on it, isn't it? Quite a nice effect in the potion. I suppose it's quite nice the way the light plays on his armour. Again, this is one of those ones where when I first started playing TESL, when there was a much wider player base, I'd see people playing this card. But now not so much. I don't think I've seen it for ages. So I'm still not a massive fan of the art on this, but that does make a bit more visually interesting effect. So this is a particularly hideous piece of art, isn't it? Really ugly. I actually call this card sarcastically expected arrival because you pretty much expect it in any invade deck that's running willpower attribute. Yeah, really hideous. Well, I suppose it stands out a bit more, so if you had to say in terms of which was the better of the two, that's definitely a lot better. This sort of feature stands out more here, doesn't it? However, it is a particularly hideous card, so we'll move on swiftly. And now I always think of Schward when this comes out, because he used to get so annoyed with it because it was he'd always be playing somebody and then they'd get a really massively buffed channeler come out and he'd be like, oh, get salty about it. So I tend to think of him when I see this card. I've always thought that channeler sounded like a jaguar, the sound he makes when he's attacked. I'm going to have to try and get a recording of that before the game finishes. Now this premium is really, really beautiful, and obviously it appeals to a pyromaniac like myself. I mean, that flame effect's really good. I think that could go down on the list of hypnotic cards as well, but we'll see. It's going to be quite hard to narrow it down, isn't it? There's quite a few very hypnotic cards in TESL. I love that wolf's fangs. Yeah, all of these wolf cards remind me of a player. I'm just wondering if they're still on my friends list, but there was a particular player who I used to play with their dad, and they liked playing Legends and that, and so I think that they used to play with their dad. It made them feel close together, so I always think of them when I see the wolf cards. They had a very good wolf deck as well. That is a particularly good premium, isn't it? Now we've got this one. Not particularly bothered by the art on that. It's not overly exciting, is it? Oh mean, it's fairly basic, isn't it? You've got the glowing hand and a little bit of movement in the background. It's not one of the better cards, is it? I mean, the effect is useful, but it's not that exciting in terms of art. This one gets played a lot in versus arena. It's always annoying when you're about to kill your opponent and they get one of these out and they've got a board. In versus arena, it's always very much people just try and get as much drain as possible and try and make you run out of cards. That is quite a lovely effect on the premium though, isn't it? The colours are definitely a lot more vivid. So that is an improvement. This is quite a fun card. Takes a bit of setup. Not that interesting on the art though, is it? Oops. We've got a bit of mist in the background. Yeah, it's mainly the background effects. I'd say they're about equal, the two versions. Maybe that's a bit more defined. Cloud Rest has got very useful ability and it's got quite a nice outfit as well, I'd say. So I quite like the sense of the art on that. However, this is another case where the actual effects make her stand out more. Oh, her eyes glinted as well, that's scary. She definitely seems to be standing out, almost like jumping out the card at me, so yeah, I think that's a really lovely premium. Another card that I'm not a great fan of because I don't like massive numbers of supports in decks. The art's okay on this one. That's a big improvement. You've got the smoke in the background and the banner going. But there is still a slight faded effect to her uniform there, isn't there? Dawnbreaker, always a very popular item for that bit of extra reach. Okay, the art's not the most exciting going, but that is an improvement actually. Defensive Broomer. Now, I actually know some people hate this card and say it's too strong. However, I quite like it because I think it's I never run more than one. Occasionally I run two, but I'm always just put one in just for luck type thing as a contingency if I'm going to run these colours. Occasionally you get it someone who run all three, but I generally run one or two, two tops. And I like to pair it in spell sword skeletons basically. So you get all your skellies out on the board, then put your bone colossus out, and obviously he buffs everything, and then you have this on top, and it's just a magnificent sight when it goes off. So apart from some subtle lighting, it does look like it's fairly similar, this version. Now when I first started playing, Devour was quite commonly seen as removal. I suppose it's fairly cheap, but then the difficulty is the creature having to need 4 power or less. So over the years it's become less and less common to see it outside of versus arena. That is better, the premium. I mean, the dragon jumps out on it more than on the other card. The art actually looks more defined, particularly the snow effect as well. The art on this is okay. Quite a fun effect. Yeah, there's not a huge amount going on here, is there? It's not the most thrilling art going, is it really? Neither's the effect on there, really. Then we're getting into Hive Defender. I actually do prefer the standard art version to the old art, which we'll get to in a minute. So he's got a nice golden aura around him, hasn't he? Some kind of electricity field. Yeah, very good piece of art there. I like the Qualm. I wish I'd had more than about for tribal decks. That one's okay. This chap hardly gets played at all. Bless him. I actually prefer the standard art on that because it looks just a little bit more faded on this version, doesn't it? So it's quite good fun playing Imperial Camp. I've played it a few times in Versus Arena. Quite like the art on here because the snow looks almost blue, doesn't it? Quite a subtle effect on there, but I actually do prefer the standard card. I just think that the snow is a more intense shade of blue in that, so I prefer the standard card rather than the premium. This is always a very fun card to play. I just wish it was a bit more vibrant in the background though. Now that one I do actually prefer because the rider is actually lit up more and more emphasised. So I definitely think that's an improvement. More ugly invade card. Well, as I said, there are some invade cards that are nicer looking, and I have commented on them in other videos, but that's just so ugly. Well, I suppose the burning flame effect of the portal in the background is the redeeming feature in the premium, so it is better than the standard. But my goodness, they're hideous. If anyone thinks these guys look nice, then let me know in the comments below. Just hideous. I do quite like this card. I have played with it before. I've done like decks to copy it into other lanes. I think it did pretty badly on ladder, but it was still fun to play. The preview's okay. I just happened to think. Let's go back a sec. Yeah, I just think the art looks more defined on there. I think on the premium it looks a little bit more faded to me. I really do enjoy playing Legate Ricky. Is that how you say her name? I'm not gonna can I remember. I played her in my Imperial Tribal deck, which was not particularly strong. But it was very, very, very fun to play. And actually, I think, although it was not the most strong of decks, I felt that I improved as a player when I played it because I had to be very patient and set things up. Because I had Legion 0 Templar in there as well, so trying to ensure I could get him down with the buff as a kind of an art form to it. And Legate Ricky was always very fun to play. A bit shy sometimes when you want her to come out, but very, very fun to play. She still seems to stand out a bit more in the premium version, doesn't she? I suppose you've got that the light and the almost like the smoky air behind her. Yeah, I do prefer that version. I think she just stands out more against the background, just the way the light's been done. And here's another one of my darlings. I just like Legion 0 Templar, where he comes down and says the blood of Cold Harbour runs through my veins and gets that buff. I know it's not a massive buff, but it's just satisfying when you can pull it off, isn't it? And I did go and craft him as premium even before the news of TESL ending, just because I liked the card so much. Yeah, a slightly more subtle premium, but he does seem to almost like jump out the page because he just seems better defined by the light behind him. Very, very good card. Again, for an invade card, the art is much better on this. I mean, she's got a bit of a funny hat on, hasn't she? And not the most realistic of battle outfits, let's face facts. But very, very useful card. Even in the premium, her features are not particularly well defined. Her face is not that defined, is it? But at least we've got a nice fire effect in the background to compensate for that. Very useful card. The art's nothing to write home about though, is it? It's a bit more boring and generic, but very, very useful. And I do like the consumer mechanic. Not a huge amount going on in the premium. They're both about on an even pegging, really. Now this is always a very useful card. I like the plottability. You can kind of fairly easily get another guard off of it. Sometimes you get rubbish, but on the whole you normally get something pretty good. Quite like the art, but the premium is actually better here. It's nice having the sort of blue aura around her, isn't it? Very, very useful card. People normally try and avoid opponents drawing on it because it can reduce something to 0, and sometimes you get cases of people aiming for things like what's it called? The conscription or rage, and they're like hoping to get some of that for free, basically. So it can be quite a dangerous card. Go back over the... yeah, I mean, the art on that's okay. And that is very, very hypnotic, isn't it? Another wolf card, great fun. Happy memories of playing with my friend who used to have a wolf deck. That is very atmospheric, that one. I do prefer the premium version. Reverend Guardian. I'm not a really great fan of the art on this, to be honest. It's not one of the better looking dragons, is it? I mean, that's quite attractive, but it's just not on a par with some of the other dragons out there. Hello everyone! So this is a bit of a shocker. It's daylight when I'm recording! And that's because it's a weekend. So I'm continuing the celebrating the TESL card art series to preserve the beautiful card art. Okay, let's be fair, some of the stuff in TESL, the card art, can be ugly or even a bit boring, but on the whole it's mostly very beautiful and certainly worth preserving. So I'm just going to carry on the series with the Willpower. After this I've got Endurance, the multi ones, so up here, and then Neutral to go. I have actually filmed a separate little episode around the card backs as well, just so we've got those beautiful things preserved too. Anyway, let's crack on with Riften Lawkeeper. Always a bit annoying when you're playing on ladder and someone puts this guy out, because not only has it got decent stats, but they get 4 health back, which is a decent amount. I do quite like the art on this. There's a real sense of movement. I mean, normally I'm not a great fan of it when the background's really blurred and that, but there is a sense of forward movement in the card, so I quite like the art for that. I'm less keen on the premium, fun enough. Sorry, I'm just a bit dry. I have to drink a bit more. I've got my cup of tea next to me. I'll drink a bit more of that in a sec. That's a little bit distracting, actually. I think in this case I prefer the standard art. It's just I find that effect a little bit distracting. It detracts a bit from the art, and also, funny enough, it looks a little bit more faded in my opinion. Shivering Apothecary, very, very fun card. What is that she's holding? Maybe I need a pair of glasses after all. I quite like her outfit, which I know is a girly whirly thing to say, but I can't help that. I used to run her in my Imperial Tribal deck, and I know she's a weak card, but it's just fun, because you never know what you're going to get. So, and although I'm not a big fan of having lots and lots of RNG in a deck, the occasional card like that is fine. Now this is another case. I think I was talking in some of my earlier videos about the Willpower cards and how they seem to have got the balance right on the whole, a lot more with getting the effects right so that they don't detract from the art, whereas on some of the other cards occasionally the effects are superimposed and just make the art look faded. I like this. I like it a lot, actually. That could be quite hypnotic. I like the fact you can see the bubbling going on in her potion, and just the effect behind her makes her really stand out more. So I'd say that's a real cut above the standard version. Very nice, and potentially a candidate for my hypnotic cards video. Oh, I just noticed my battery's on 50%. Let's just turn that on. Yeah, I could stare at that for ages. That might have to be... I'm kind of planning on doing one video on hypnotic cards and one video on TESL Philosophy or TESL for Everyday Life. I haven't quite decided on the title yet. And it will be... so there'll be like they'll take a bit more work to do, but once I finish filming the card art, I'm going to do the hypnotic cards one, and then I'm going to do the TESL Therapy or TESL in Philosophy in Everyday Life, and that'll be based around voice lines that some of the characters in the game have, which will be fun. Shrewd strategist. I know he was used a fair bit by several content creators. The one who springs to mind is Rumping Rufus. He did a strategist deck a few months ago. I think it was, can't remember if it was late 2024, maybe the autumn 2024, that's the time period. And then that kind of repopularised the strategist again, because obviously he put it onto the sort of zero cost cards with charge, and they get the buff. I do like the art on it. I actually think that, again, this is an example. You can see the flames behind him, and that actually makes him, oh, so clumsy. This is the thing when you're using a trackpad, you can just quite often just tap off of something when you don't mean to. Anyway, I just think the art sort of stands out a lot more with that effect in the background. He looks very serious, doesn't he? So he's obviously planning out his strategy. But yeah, I really like that art, and it's just a nice flame effect in the background. Bullywog and Spawn Mother. These tend to be played mainly in Versus Arena. I mean, it is pretty ugly, you've got to admit. I quite like some of the Grummites, but that is pretty ugly. And Spawn Mother, well, it's a bit more attractive than the other one, isn't it? Mind you, that wouldn't be hard. It's a fun card to play in Versus Arena. Look at him, he's dribbling. I'm afraid he's still ugly, even in the premium version. They don't give them a makeover, do they? That's really lovely, actually. I like the movement of the water in the background. That is a lovely enhancement on that Spawn Mother. You've got a bit of action in the background and the foreground there, haven't you? That's definitely better than the standard one. Black Dragon. Okay, I'm not especially fond of the art. I like the card and its effect, but the art on the standard version is... it's a bit subdued for my liking. But I do like when she says the Dark Brotherhood is a pox and I will cure it. I mean, that's an improvement on the standard art, isn't it? It's just that I think, well, when you compare that to this, it was in a reward in a tournament, I think Grand Melee last year. That is just so much more beautiful, isn't it? Luckily, she obviously hadn't been available for a long period of time, and then they did her in a tournament, and then a few months later they did her in a tournament again. So those people missed out. I know a couple of people missed out either through not being able to play the tournament because of work, or just through bad luck. You know, when we all have them, those periods when the game hates you and will actually give your opponent everything they need, and then you hardly get to play anything, and you just get obliterated. I know a couple of people who had that happen to them during that tournament. Anyway, when she came back the second time, most of the people I know were able to get her. She was very, very beautiful. Farron, haven't played with him often. I actually prefer having the card drawn on the whole to having the health restored. However, I suppose I'm kind of fond of him because there's a deck that I got given ages ago by Mr. Death AZZ, who was a phenomenally creative player. We used to play lots of hilarious friendlies together, and I remember him giving me a Varren deck. It was good fun to play. Yeah, I suppose the effect in the back does make him stand out more, so I think if in terms of which one's the better, I think in this case the premium is. Warcry, not one you see that often. Occasionally people will use it, but the art on it's okay. It's nothing special, but it's adequate. I'm less keen on the effect there. Normally I like a good sort of flame spark type effect, but I think it detracts a bit from the card and the art, so I think I prefer the standard version for that. Wish, you don't see it very often, although I have seen it. I think I saw it I think I've seen it this season actually, so January 2025. I have seen it played. I think it was in a Dominion Empower deck, which you don't see that many of really. So hats off to that person for actually trying something a bit different. I'd like the art to be more vivid on it, to be fair, but that is quite a relaxing premium to look at, isn't it? Now, this one makes me laugh. Everybody I know says it's a terrible card, but when I was fairly new, um, I liked well, basically, I know this is not a good reason to play a card, but I liked the sound it made when you place it on a creature, and I liked the visual, so I used to play Writ of Execution in my deck, and my clanmates would sort of reproach me teasingly about the fact that I used to play it. I had a deck for ages that it was a really rubbishy Empire deck. It had Writ of Execution in it, and it used to be, although it was a really rubbishy deck, it used to be one of my reliable Get Out a Snake decks. And eventually I did get rid of it, but yeah, I've got fond memories looking at this card. It's so rubbish. I might have to play it again before the game ends, just purely to capture that effect on camera.